Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
The governor tells Michigan to mask up again and hints that she may take new action to motivate those who do not.
But we begin here at 6 with breaking news from Detroit's east side, where a group of protesters have blocked part of Jefferson Avenue.
And take a look. Tim Pamplin is on the scene with more on what's going on here. Hey, Tim.
Yeah, hey, Jason and Karen. It's Jefferson Avenue as it gets onto Belle Isle. Right there, you see. Protesters, call themselves 313 Liberation, have shut down eastbound Jefferson Avenue. Police have just shown up and have shut down westbound Jefferson, and now eastbound Jefferson heading out of town. So Jefferson Avenue near the MacArthur Bridge, Belle Isle, is shut down. These protesters, many requests, including defunding the police. They say they're going to be rolling around town over the next few weeks, setting up these liberation zones, as they call them, taking the streets back. Back to you guys in the studio.
And certainly making themselves right at home. All right, Tim, we'll follow that. As other states throw their reopenings into reverse, Governor Whitmer made it clear today Michigan is in park for the time being.
Today's numbers of new cases in Michigan, 446. Now, that is a step down from the 610 reported yesterday, but 9 more Michiganders have lost their lives to the virus.
Governor Whitmer signed an executive order today as well, mandating all healthcare professionals undergo implicit bias training with the goal of reducing racial disparities in medical treatment. We'll take a closer look at that in just a few moments. And despite the higher numbers of new COVID cases, the governor has decided not to roll back Michigan's reopening, but emphasized the importance of wearing masks in enclosed public places. And
we're watching the trends, and right now the trend of where we're headed is concerning. I'm not announcing a step back today. I'm certainly not announcing a step forward today. But if we want to be in a position in 8 weeks from now where we can get our kids back in in-person education, this trend can't continue. And that's why masking up is going to be so important, and that's why we'll be announcing additional steps toward encouraging compliance, but that we're asking on every Michigander to do their part. We got to get the politics out of this conversation and just do what we know to be the right thing.
Now, the governor reiterated today in Michigan, you are required to wear a mask in all enclosed public spaces.
But some people simply refuse to do that, and over the past few months, we've seen how ugly things can get when people are called out for it. So if there is a statewide crackdown, will law enforcement be willing to enforce the law?
Local 4 Defender Sean Lay has been working that part of the story. And Sean, for police, there are questions of willingness and resources as well.
Think about the big picture here. We're talking about a voluntary wearing of the mask inside, possibly heading towards a misdemeanor crime. How's that enforcement going to look? We checked with Detroit Police, big city, big police department. They said for now, the city's health department is doing a good job with enforcement. Here in places like Royal Oak, and shop owners, small business owners that are really feeling the pressure to step up their own enforcement if someone steps inside without wearing that mask.
No one's wearing gloves or nothing.
A customer calling out a local restaurant for not being masked or gloved up.
That's disgusting. I ordered my food and I walk right out.
Governor Whitmer's executive order, wear masks inside. It's voluntary compliance, but now the governor may make not wearing a mask a crime.
You have the ability for a misdemeanor and a fine.
But who will enforce that? Six salon owner George Nikolai has safety at his salons, temperature checks, dividers, sanitizer, and everyone is offered and encouraged to wear a mask. But he wants to cut hair, not be the mask police.
And then if they don't have a mask on, Sean, we offer the mask. But I don't know if it should be up to me to tell the client, hey, you need to put this on.
Livingston County Sheriff Mike Murphy says he agrees wearing a mask inside is important, but doesn't agree with putting mask enforcement on deputies and local police.
And frankly, I just don't have the resources to go around and be the mask police.
He recently met with Walmart, who is rolling out a new nationwide policy on handling mask enforcement on its own.
They're going to make only one entrance into the store, and they would hire a security guard to be there. And again, require everybody to wear a mask.
Back here live. That's brand new information the sheriff is revealing about Walmart here in Metro Detroit and nationwide. One entrance for everyone, and everyone will have to wear a mask, and a security guard hired by Walmart will be checking each and every person. That's an interesting development about businesses doing the enforcement themselves. The sheriff says how they would get involved, that every business has the right to refuse service to anyone not wearing a mask. If that person sticks around and is trespassing, causing a problem, that's when he says his deputies will arrive. We're live tonight in Royal Oak. Sean Lay, Local 4 Defenders.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. One of the great tragedies of COVID-19 is the disproportionate impact it has had on the African American community.
This chart from the COVID-19 data page at clickondetroit.com shows Black people make up 30% of Michigan's cases. The percentage of deaths is even higher at 40%. This is why Governor Whitmer started the coronavirus task force on racial disparities and today ordered a dramatic change in the training required of medical workers.
Local 4's Rod Maloney was at the governor's press conference today and joins us now live this evening with what exactly is changing. Hi, Rod.
Hi, Karen. You know, it's a situation where 40% of the deaths have happened in the non-white communities. The governor believes that much of that is because of what she believes is to be uneven health care delivery. And so what she's going to require is what they call implicit bias training.
So that as people of color seek health care, they'll be treated with equal dignity and respect, which will yield better outcomes.
The governor's task force is saying, in particular, African Americans suffer in medical settings from the unconscious bias by medical professionals. She turned to Michigan State University Nursing School Dean Dr. Randall Rash, who spoke extensively about what implicit bias is. He called it an evolutionary human self-defense mechanism and what it is not.
Because it's so frequently associated with race, it has the implications of thinking that you're accusing someone of being a racist. But the key to implicit bias is that it's unconscious.
Implicit bias, he believes, deals also with weight and gender, the attractive and the unattractive. He believes in medical settings in particular, implicit bias leads to negative unconscious thought and therefore lesser treatment for some and even no treatment for others. This, he and the task force believe, is leading to unnecessary deaths.
And for us, it's especially important in how we gather a history, how we do physical examination, how we make decisions about that data, and how we use that to work with patients to develop the best health care that they need.
So on the practical level, what this means is that new licensees or people who are looking to renew licenses will have to have this training as part of that process. Could take 6 months to a year to get this up and running. Reporting live, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
All right, Rod, as we turn to weather, a little something similar. We've got that heat again, some pop-up storms again today. And while that, sounds familiar, it's important for everybody to keep their guard up.
Most definitely. So let's bring in Ben with where things stand right now. Ben.
Yeah, Karen, some of us are getting a good soaking, but it's very few, and it is mostly in the north zone. So let's go up to St. Clair County. This is where we're focused on right now. That area around Capac, just off to the west of the county line. Quite a bit, over an inch of rain estimated so far, and could be a little bit more before that is all said and done. And even into Sanilac County, we're seeing some of these storms starting to fire again up around and north of Deckerville. But these are mostly what we're looking at. There's not a whole lot of activity outside of those two locations. A little bit more possibly there coming into the northern section of Macomb County. Otherwise, heat advisory in effect until midnight tonight. The air quality alert is also in effect, and it looks like we just received a severe thunderstorm warning there. So let's go right to the radar, and I'll check out exactly where that box is. It is that area we're watching, western St. Clair County, northern sections of Macomb County, and also just that southeastern corner of Lapeer County. So a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect in that location, and we'll get more specifics on that and get back to you in just a few minutes, guys.
All right, we'll let you check all that out. We appreciate it. Thank you, Ben. It is no secret that we are living in stressful times, and now it seems that stress could be leading to more broken hearts. A new study finds cases of broken heart syndrome have increased during the coronavirus pandemic.
We all react to stress differently.
Each time we have a stress response, it's the fight or flight response, and the adrenaline goes up, and how one reacts, how one reacts to that emotionally is different, but how our organs react to it is entirely different as well.
That includes the heart. Broken heart syndrome has symptoms similar to a heart attack, like shortness of breath or chest pain. However, people with broken heart syndrome usually don't have blocked arteries. Instead, stress changes the shape of the heart, which affects its ability to pump blood effectively. Cleveland Clinic researchers found cases of broken heart syndrome doubled in 2 of their hospitals in March and April of this year, just as the coronavirus pandemic started in the United States. We're all experiencing stress right now, from job loss to social isolation to fears about getting coronavirus ourselves. Experts say it's important to find ways to manage that stress, like daily exercise, meditation, talk therapy, or prayer.
It's extremely important to connect with your inner self. And as flossy or as sugar-coated as it may sound, it actually really works. And there's science behind that to show that it actually really works.
Doctors also caution it's important not to ignore symptoms like chest pain or shortness of breath. Hospitals are taking strict precautions to protect patients from the coronavirus and are urging people to seek care quickly for heart symptoms and any other emergencies.
Dozens of new Americans took their oaths today, just not exactly as they planned. Immigration officials were forced to change how they naturalize people due to COVID safety rules. And our Grant Herms has the story of DriveThru Citizenship.
When the pandemic hit, hundreds of would-be citizens were left in limbo, not knowing when they would take their oath to become Americans. But for the better part of a month now, U.S. Immigration Services has been answering that problem with a pandemic solution: curbside citizenship.
Okay, who's going to be the new citizen?
It may not be what they had envisioned when they chose to become Americans, but soon-to-be citizens lined up, rolled down their windows.
The Constitution and laws.
Masks on, radios off.
Congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America.
One by one, they read the oath to become Americans.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
In many cases, it's taken a decade to get here. Barbara Goel and her husband worked to become citizens together. They planned on taking their oath together, but today she was alone in her car.
We were canceled on a Saturday when I was scheduled to have my oath with my husband on a Monday, so it was like, oh darn.
MD Islam had been working to become a citizen for 9 years.
So what's the next thing you're going to do as a U.S. citizen?
Yeah, vote. That's one thing.
But there's still a backlog of citizens, and with immigration processes moving slower than normal during the crisis, many of those taking their oaths today are the lucky ones who no longer have to wait. Immigration officials say they swear in about 90 new American citizens every day, 4 days a week, and they say they are just about through their backlog. In Detroit, Grant Herms, Local 4.
New at 6.
Teaching your little ones about cleanliness during coronavirus goes beyond proper hand washing techniques.
So it's important that you provide them the order, but also let them create it themselves by you giving them the tools.
Coming up, hear from a local mom who's also a professional organizer about how to help your kids right now who are at home learn how to create a really clean space.